Welcome to Black Coffee Conversations. It's all things relationship. I'm Tanya.
And I'm Tiffany.
Yes, and here we are. What are we going to talk about today, Tiffany?
Oh man, so we've had some really interesting guests. A lot of guests have been very authentic that have come on the show and very gracious to share their journey with relationships. Some that were successful, some that weren't, and just what it means to be on the other side of something that you have invested time in and maybe thought was going to last a lifetime. And now you're back in your singleness. And the heartbreak and the journey of healing that we all have to go through after that. And I think what we've learned is that it can be different, not only for individuals, but for men and women.
Yes, I think too. I think honestly, when we've had both females and males on this on our podcast, and I have really sensed that difference. We've all been through heartbreak, but the way that we journey through it is very different. But I've seen some similarities sometimes when we're speaking to men and how they deal with heartbreak. Yeah. So how would you say that? Like, how so? What's kind of your takeaway from some of the conversations with men? Now, I know for me, being in my, early 50s, mid 50s, a lot of the men that I date are divorced. Probably every man I've dated since my divorce, they're men that they're divorced.
Yeah.
So what about you?
And I'm single, and I haven't dated exclusively divorced men, but I have run into a few that I had really great connections with. I won't say a few, that sounds like a lot, but one or two that I had really great connections with, but they just were not necessarily ready, whether it was because they were still healing and kind of unthawing from all of the trauma associated with dividing up their household, or co-parenting a child, or trying to figure out what a new life routine looks like for them. And they don't really want someone else to fit into that equation, because they're in a mindset of trying to figure out a new reality. And I understand that, but I didn't understand it for a while, because when you're single and you're dating and you think you have a connection with someone and there's chemistry and there's a spark, as a single woman, you want to continue to nurture that, and you want to continue to develop it. But sometimes you get in there and realize that the opportunity for that is just not there.
Right. Yeah. I think there's a couple of reasons for that. I think, when we go through a divorce, we do have already kind of a support system built up. I think a lot of us are more open to go to therapy, which I see. I think that more men are doing that, but I think we have that support from friends and family, so
people
we're able
can always talk
exactly.
to. And we always are even in our day-to-day life, unpacking our emotions.
Exactly.
And I don't think that's something men do.
Exactly.
So that stuff we stuck for years with them.
Right.
Resentments, shame, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And my heart really goes out to men, because I cannot imagine what it's like to carry those bricks over years of time. I cannot imagine what it's like to be a man, because we had Nate on the show recently from Later Daters, Netflix show docuseries about people dating in their later years. And what he said was something I had not really thought about, is that men of a certain generation or integrity will stay in a complicated marriage where they are miserable. Misery is the word used. Because he felt that sense of responsibility to provide and protect his family.
Exactly.
And even though the relationship wasn't flourishing and they weren't even really talking about it or trying to fix it, a man will not leave, because this is mine. This is my responsibility.
That's right.
So,
that was an aha moment.
It
was an aha moment for me, because I guess being a woman and of course making the decision to leave my marriage, I guess I never really thought about it from a man's perspective.
No,
a man being the head of the household, the sense of duty, the protector. And that I agree that a lot of men probably stay there. It's harder for them to leave because they are really married in a sense to that role.
Yes.
As a godly man, this is what I committed to.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to veer off from that.
Right.
But the unfortunate thing is I think men probably have an easier time to maybe compartmentalize. They'll pour into their careers, even though they're miserable. They may go out there and cheat, even though they're miserable, but they will stay.
And it's usually not emotional cheating. It's just a physical need.
Right.
Where women will emotional cheat because they've been in a situation where maybe their partner has been emotionally unavailable to them for so many years that we just want to feel something.
And I don't know. I mean, we're speaking from one perspective. I know there are a lot of men out there like, that's not necessarily
true. But it's a pattern that I have seen in the dating pool, and I think Nate really hit the nail on the head when he talked about that.
Because I never understood why don't you just leave? I mean, at some point when we don't have that emotional connection, and of course my situation was different, but still when you don't have that emotional connection, I know more women are willing to, hey, I can't mentally stay here and be okay. And they will go ahead and make that move. But men seem to be more willing to stay and just, I don't know.
But when they do
deal
leave
with that,
and they're on the other side of divorce and they're back in the dating market, you're not going to be the same person you were when you were 25 or 20 before you married your spouse. So if you think you're for the streets at that age,
it's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. But what you find is you do meet a lot of, you go out and you meet the divorce guys.
Right.
And they're not really ready to be in another relationship. But I don't think that they know that they're not ready. They don't necessarily say that they're not ready. But I think it takes time to start to feel your emotions again.
Exactly.
When you've been frozen in a state of freeze for so long. So
it takes some time to really walk through that healing process.
And it's grief. A lot of times it is deep grief.
It is.
You really gotta allow it. You gotta allow yourself to feel something.
Right. And not only that, one of the things that Nate had talked about was, after you go through a divorce, for men, they do go through a financial, that financial impact. Women do too. But I think when men feel like they go through that financial impact, they feel like sometimes, that the family is torn apart and they have that loss and they don't want to go there again. They are fearful. Yes, they give it their whole. And so when that breaks, when they have that heartbreak and it seems like their world has been turned upside down, do I want to get back in that situation and get married again, have to have that burden, that sense of duty? I think they're fearful, like, I don't know if it's worth it.
It may not be.
Right.
It's going to take some time probably to rebuild yourself in a new identity as a new person because the life that you thought was going to happen for you is gone.
Right.
So it's tough on the fellas. I mean, we each have our own unique journey and perspective, but I really feel for men because for a man to just have to keep getting up and keep going, maybe they're paying alimony, maybe they're still supporting the children they had out of that marriage.
Right.
Gosh, that's a lot to shoulder. And then you got to get out. You got to find a new place.
Yeah. But they, you know what? They even say, and this is, I wish I had some numbers here with me, but really, honestly, usually the woman is the one that has the financial impact. They talk about single women that go through divorce. We're the ones that really have that financial impact, and that men usually bounce back quicker. And I wish I had those statistics with me, but that's what they have said. Even though the female, gets the child support and things like that, statistically they say that women end up usually taking more of a financial impact there. That's another conversation. But I don't know. I mean, I think kind of getting out here, do you feel like it hinders you from wanting to date? I mean, do we have a choice but to date divorced men? Majority of them have been, I mean, at this point, I just don't think we have a choice.
I just think that you really have to take your time and figure out where you are and what you want. I mean, divorced men and men in general laugh at women because we'll come into the first date. Yeah, I'm looking for a husband. I want to be married. You know, and that's okay if that's something you desire. If marriage is something that is a goal for you, that's okay. But you can't project that onto a person that you just met. And if you start to get to know that person and you see that you all are not aligned, then it's your responsibility, no matter how much you like him, to walk away. You can't then victimize yourself and say he wasted your time when you didn't read the room. You know, you go in and just because a man is giving you attention or you know, it feels good. It feels good. And maybe you have some type of emotional bond with him.
Right.
It doesn't mean that your life is lined up and that your goals are lined up. But I do think that if you meet a woman, fellas, and she is very intentional about being married and you know that that's something you absolutely don't want, be real about it. Let her decide if she wants to continue to rock with you. Don't waste her time, because that's the thing that becomes heartbreaking and devastating to a woman. The investment we make, and I know women always talk about, you know, our time clock, our clock is ticking. But we make a huge time investment. And men do too. But for a woman, it is a little different. The time investment is a little different. Especially if you want children or you want a family and those are goals.
I get
it.
But
have boundaries, ladies. Protect yourself. Don't let a man string you along. I don't care how fine he is. I don't care how successful he is. He may be the man of your dreams, but if he is not saying to you that he wants the same things that you want, then you don't think you can do enough or be enough or you find enough where you can change his mind.
And we will try.
You cannot change his mind.
Exactly. I think we have to be
open. Get hurt.
Yes. I completely agree. And I think that we have to really, I had something on my mind, but I think we really have to be open to that.
Love yourself enough to walk away.
Because regardless, it's all about timing. And it's not going to work out unless it's the right timing. And that may not be the person for you. But I don't know. I think we do sometimes have the little check box, you know, the checks and the things that we want. And we check it off. And we're like, you know, if everything is going well and we have this vibe and the chemistry, why wouldn't that be the next step? I think that's what a lot of us think about.
We do, but I also think that sometimes we lock in too soon out of a scarcity mindset. We think that God will not.
There's not another one. There's not another one.
And sometimes you put somebody in a position that they have not earned to be in your life. You prioritize them. You give them too much of your time and attention when you know that you want to be a wife,
right?
But you're being a glorified girlfriend, or you being a Tuesday, Thursday. And that's not what you really desire.
And you don't want to force that. You don't want to force anything, which is why the divorce rate is probably high. There's other reasons too, but you don't want to jump and get into some type of relationship if you did, because sometimes I think they kind of do put the pressure on for that man to put a ring on their finger or whatever. You never want to force something.
And it's okay for men to be where they are. Just be friends. Just take your time and know what you want, and don't under any circumstances settle for less than that.
And believe that God has someone for you.
Absolutely.
And that even though sometimes we look at the numbers and get afraid when we get that one good man, that there's not, you know, this is the one, there's not that many out there, really believing that we should wait on God and have faith that he has that person for us.
And believe that you're worth it. And keep working on yourself until you believe that you're worth it. So I think that sometimes we break our own hearts.
I do. I agree. I don't know what it is. I think that we just, and if you think about it too, I forgot who was talking about this, but we do grow up, and maybe it's changed, but I know for my generation, you grow up, you watch Cinderella. There's all these princes that are on, you know, on TV. And I think, at least for me, you kind of grow up wanting the marriage and the Prince Charming, and maybe that day is gone. You know, we need to be our own hero. And sometimes we need to focus on ourselves and what our purpose is in life. And that man may or may not come. Maybe we just need to focus on us.
And he will come, but men fall in love differently.
Yeah, they do.
Men fall in love by investing over time. And I think that if you are a woman who is confident and focused on what you got going on in your life, and you don't necessarily, you know what you want, say as a husband, but you are not prioritizing any particular person to fit that space. A man knows, he's the pursuer. He knows what he wants out of you probably within 6 months of meeting
completely.
you.
They know. I agree.
If he's not showing you that, like,
believe that. Understand you.
Please believe that. Don't get involved in this fairy tale narrative or delusion of this Prince Charming, because it does not happen like that. It's not
real.
No, it might have happened like that in high school. You might have had your first kiss and got butterflies and been like, oh, but it's really not happening like that now. And I mean, you can catch vibes, you can fall in love with people, but just be open, let it flow, let it pass through,
be organic,
let it come, let it go. And sometimes it comes back better. Sometimes you meet a great guy, and I've had this experience. I've met a great guy, but at the time, he was focused on his son who was in high school and, you know, getting him out of the house and elevating to that next level. And then when he was more in a quiet, single space, things can come back around and they can be better than before, but you can't force it.
Exactly.
You can't feel some type of way. People have to take care of. Do you even want that man if he's not really ready for you?
Right.
Even if he gave it to you, is it going to work?
But you know, how many people have this conversation, Tiffany, and we hear it, but yet we still step into it. Someone is hearing us right now, and they're like, yeah, girl,
that's
you know,
thirst.
I know that's me. Is it thirst, or is it
just desperation?
Is it this? And maybe it is, because they really want that. And I get it. You know what I mean? I used to be there, you know, I mean, right now I'm kind of, you know, I'm at a point now, you get older, you want to focus on your own career. You've had enough heartbreaks to know, hey, I've got to focus on me and believe and trust in God. But I'm sure there are women out there like, but when is he coming? I want that. Or,
but do you want it by any means, or do you want it to be right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, we all want it to be right, but we want it right now. I think I'm just saying for the woman out there that it's like, you know, I know this. I know I still should not be pursuing this. But I think sometimes we think we can change him. Or if I do this, you know, he'll be ready. If I show him this, they'll be ready when they're ready. And it may not be you. You know, there are relationships where you can be in a relationship with a man and he just wasn't ready. And guess what? He goes out, you break up, and he's with someone else and he marries that person.
And don't be sad, little T.
Right. It just wasn't for you. He wasn't for you. And we take that personally.
Exactly.
Right. He just wasn't the one for you.
Yeah.
So what do you think as you're dating, what is
and when you find out that he's not the one for you and you get and your heart is broken.
Yeah.
I think that is a perfect mirror of opportunity for you to see where you still have unhealed spaces.
Very true.
That you need to work on before the one comes.
Yeah.
Sometimes people come not necessarily to destroy us, but to expose.
Yes.
So that we can feel whatever we have pushed down and know what needs to heal.
Right.
So if you're manifesting the one or the right one, you need to have those experiences with people that can show you.
Right.
Because when you're by yourself, you can't always feel those things.
Exactly. It's growth. We can say when you look back at different relationships you've been in, it does help you to grow. It helps you to reflect on really what you want. And if in the journey that you need to continue to take.
But I'm not what a lot of women do, that pain of rejection, it really brings up so many issues of our self-worth. We feel like nobody wants us. We feel like our ass is not fat enough, or we're not beautiful enough, or I'm getting too old.
Yeah.
Whatever the narrative is that you've been telling yourself, it's going to be the voice that you hear in that pain. And that's where you need to do your work. You can't always point at the men and say, "Oh, you're emotionally unavailable.
Right.
You know, you don't know how to love."
Yes.
But he can't feel your empty holes. I think he can reflect them and expose them.
Right.
But if you both come into a space from a healed space and you come together, it's gonna click.
Yes,
it's gonna connect the right way.
That's right.
But if you come together, even if you got great chemistry and attraction, and it's not quite right, use some grace. Use some discernment. Like the other person is not your enemy. God might have sent them to help you
for a season.
Absolutely. Exactly. I don't mind my seasons of heartbreak because
it's tough. It's tough when you're going through it, but you have an appreciation.
It's like going to the gym. It's emotional. It's an emotional workout. It's something that I needed to lift and to really work through in myself so that I could be stronger and more prepared for the right person. Don't let it turn you bitter. Let it soften you. Let it bring out the best parts of you. You know, it's really a blessing.
Yeah.
If you meet someone that you feel that connected to, that can really trigger you on that level, that person is a blessing.
I agree. I agree. Oh my goodness. Okay. All right. Well, I think we need to talk maybe on the next episode, just talk about the healing journey, the growth, heartbreak, as women, as men. I would love for our next episode to be all about healing.
Absolutely. Yes. And I think sometimes the core emotions that people feel are anger, grief, and shame. And I think that we don't want to deal with that.
No.
It's hard for men to deal with it, but
we got to do it. We have to do it
you
together.
Have to.
Right? You need to. You need to do it.
If you don't,
to grow. Yeah.
Eventually it's going to show up in your body.
Exactly.
Eventually it's going to show up in your body. So even for men, it would be better to go ahead and feel what you need to feel so that you don't get broke down in the club at 55.
Okay.
Eventually it's going to break you down. So
I wonder if we could ever I think just as we go through this, and we talked about how season 2 is all about growing, healing, but to have other guests on here to talk about their healing journey, I really want us to tap more into this, because I think part of this is just, I want all of us to go to a new level. I want all of us to be able to thrive. And I think it starts with self. Yeah. And we really have to start focusing on how can we go through this healing journey, listen to others, hear how they're going through it or how they got through it, so we can kind of get through this.
And it's easy to dive into your work and distract yourself with getting a bag.
Very true.
It's easy to just start
and ignore it,
mode,
put it to
and say, okay, forget these women, forget these men.
Right.
I'm about to go.
I'm gonna do this paper. Exactly. But you haven't dealt with it, and it will come back up.
And then you get the paper, you still lonely. It's a lot of lonely women who are millionaires. Who have just built fortune companies,
but still
that are still very unfulfilled.
And men too.
Yeah,
a lot of men too. All right, so you know what? You got to join us on the next episode. Hey, you know what I'm gonna say. If you haven't followed us, what's up? If you haven't subscribed to Black Coffee Conversations, what's up? Click the button, like, share, subscribe, and tune in on the next episode. Peace.